What's going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another Roster Bubble Series video. Hit the like button if you haven't already, comment and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. Appreciate you coming back. Share this out, do all the good stuff. So we're going to take a look at another player for our Roster Bubble Series video, this one being Miles Boykin. But first, if you haven't watch these videos before, we take a player that's on the cusp of being cut. We talk about their background, their competition, ways they can win a spot on the roster, ways they can lose a spot on the roster, and prediction at the end. So we're talking about Miles Boykin, the former Raven and Steeler today. He was a third-round pick out of Notre Dame in 2019 by the Ravens, wide receiver. 6'4", 220, 27 years old. Spent time with the Ravens until 2022 in April when they released him. Then the Steelers claimed him off waivers, signed him to a one-year contract, did not bring him back, and then the Giants signed him on April 9th of 2024. His statistics, it's not that big, so we could go into it. Last year with the Steelers, 3 catches, 17 yards. The year prior, and also he played in all 17 games, 16 games with the Steelers, 2 catches, 11 yards. The year prior with Baltimore, 8 games, 1 catch, 6 yards. The 2 years prior, he actually got a decent amount of reps in the receiving game. 2020, 19 catches, 266 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then 2019, 13 catches, 198 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, if you look at his special team snaps in terms of percentage, it goes up from his days in Baltimore. So his rookie year, 32%. Same thing with 2020. 2021, his last year in Baltimore, 63%. Pittsburgh, 50%. That's 2022. And 2023, 70%. His most amount of offensive snaps was his second year, 545, 53%. So moving forward, this is what Sports Illustrated has to say in terms of his ability as a special teamer. There are 2 areas in which Boykin has shown elite skills that are perfect for a special teamer. The first job is a gunner on the kickoff and punt teams. One skill that a gunner must possess is the ability to run fast and avoid traffic. Receivers are uniquely qualified to do this. Instead of running routes and tracking the football, Boykin, as a gunner, would not be running down the field while tracking the returner. The other skill is the ability to suddenly change directions. Receivers do this all the time. It's how they get in and out of their breaks in their routes. Boykin should be more comfortable changing directions to chase the returner when he runs down the field. The second job is a blocker in the return game. Boykin's athleticism allows him to run downfield on punt returns with gunners and keep himself between the defender and his returner. His agility makes it easier to change directions during kickoff returns when the kick coverage team tries to avoid second-level blocks. He can move his feet quickly, get to the defender, and block them. In 2023, according to PFF, he had a 68.6 special teams grade. So who is he going to be competing with? Well, because he's such a good special teamer and he's a wide receiver himself, the playing field of competition is much larger. Bryce Ford-Wheaton, who does both, Isaiah Hodgins, who's a wide receiver, Ayra Sante and John Giles, who are respective undrafted free agents, Stanley Thomas-Oliver, who's a special teamer, Gunnar Olszewski, who does both, Isaiah McKenzie, who does both, Dennis Houston, who does both, and Allen Robinson. So how can he win? Versatility on special teams. Also, health is pretty much out there. That's the first thing, health. Versatility on special teams. Punt returning duties, that's probably not his thing. Kick return duties, that's not his thing. But being on those respective teams, that's good. Getting at the returner. With the new system the Giants have in place, in addition to the new rules that the NFL has put in place of, oh, you got to wait till a certain amount of time, you got to wait till the returner has the ball to go after him, that's a little bit different than years past. And obviously the UFL and the XFL, they were practicing those rules for a long time. But that's different, and it's a little bit more difficult for these return guys. And it's also, in a way, it's a little bit more difficult in ways for the returner, though it is much easier for them. Nonetheless, that's why the Giants need to have as many special teams guys as possible that could do roster stuff in terms of being a wide receiver or a good corner and special teams. That way you're not just keeping guys 6, 7, 8 of them just for specials. But nonetheless, moving on. So versatility on special teams. Blocking, being a personal protector on punts, being a gunner on punts. That is what the Giants need. They can't be giving up these big returns anymore. We've seen it the last few years. Last year, notably against the Lions in the preseason, and I always bring that up. And, how many excuses they brought up for that, Thomas McGahee being the one. Nonetheless, that 94, 95-yard return by Maurice Alexander, I think that was his name, not acceptable. Not acceptable. And it just pretty much showed, this is going to be another horrible year of special teams play, but if these guys can showcase it, specifically Miles Boykin for this video's case, that's great. Production from a mixture of speed and ability is a big body possession receiver. Miles Boykin is 6'4", and the Giants don't necessarily have a abundance of big receivers. Now, I will throw a taste in there like this. I think Miles Boykin could potentially unseat Isaiah Hodgins. Hodgins is a similar height, and he's a possession receiver. Now, if you look in the past, obviously Isaiah Hodgins had a big 2022. Not a big 2023, though, as obviously they tried to play a little bit more of the rookies and, the younger cats like Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt. But you look at Miles Boykin, his first 2 years in the NFL, he had quality production. Not saying it's great, but quality production with the Ravens. You look at Hodgins, first year with the Giants, that sort of production. But what Boykin brings to the table that Isaiah Hodgins doesn't is special teams. And that's where Boykin could take the spot of Hodgins, and the Giants don't have to keep 7, 8 receivers. They could keep 6. So throwing that in the mix. How can he lose? A lack of health, a lack of versatility on special teams, only sticking to 1 or 2 positions, and then also penalties on special teams with the Giants, in which the Giants have, unfortunately, not avoided the last few years. Lack of receiving game production, drops, fumbles, etc. Again, it's a perfect scenario what I talked about with the Isaiah Hodgins thing, because Hodgins doesn't do specials. Boykin is a quality receiver if need be, and he's a very good special teamer. But if he can't do the receiving game production, if he's not used there or he's not targeted, he doesn't produce, then that just boots it down to special teams, and he's basically on the same playing level as a guy like Bryce Ford Wheaton, Stanley Thomas Oliver, etc., etc. Elijah Riley also as well, but Elijah Riley does decent on defense. So lack of health is obviously in there at 1, but he's stayed healthy for the most part in his career. Versatility on special teams is the number one thing. Then I would say receiving game production, and then everything else that you could probably factor in there. So for right now, I'm going to say he gets cut. I think depending on production in the preseason, I could change my mind, kind of like I did with the Matt Adams thing, because I feel like the Giants have done a nice job of recruiting special teamers with the overhaul of the special teams unit, and we'll see how they play in the preseason. But like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. Appreciate you all coming back. Peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool.